There are 7 teams right now that are 0-2.
Let's do it.
Which teams are we panicking on? We got a meter from 1 to 10. The first team, the Cincinnati Bengals.
I have my panic meter at a 4. They just played an amazing game versus the Kansas City Chiefs. They were a call away from being able to come away with the victory. However, I have mine less than, of course, 50%, understanding that this isn't even an offense at 100% strength. And even still, the offensive line is always going to be a concern regardless. We haven't seen the best version of Joe Burrow. We haven't seen the best version of Jamar Chase. And we haven't seen T. Higgins at all step onto the football field. We saw a great scheme by Lou Anarumo versus the Kansas City Chiefs. And obviously, there was a strong mismatch on that left tackle side. And we saw Trey Hendrickson wreak havoc on it. There's still great pieces. Cam Taylor-Britt makes one of the greatest plays that you'll ever see a defensive player make. There's talent on this defense. There's talent on the offense. They will have better games to come. And immediately they go and they lay a beating Monday Night Football against the Washington Commanders. That's what we expect. That's what we're anticipating. But now 1-2, the noise is definitely a lot less. And now people are back on Cincinnati's bandwagon.
I think based off history, we're probably only going to get one of these teams to do it. They're all fighting a pretty historic outlier here. With Cincinnati, listen, I'm not going to be the guy who's a bad apple, but I'm not going to sit here and give them a shit ton of praise because they played a great game and they lost. You know, that's just not something I'm going to do.
It's a fair point.
They may have been a play away, but you know they did lose to the Kansas City Chiefs, and they did score 10 points against the New England Patriots. This team is 0-2 for a reason. This defense is not good. Their offense seems to their offense and defense, honestly. Like, the Chiefs game is weird because they just seem to play at their best when they play Kansas City. This is 2 samples of 2 different teams from back-to-back weeks. I feel like we saw the best Cincinnati we saw last week, and they lost. And then prior to that, we saw the worst Cincinnati has looked, and they lost. So right now, 0-2, I would say I'm at a 5.8. I'm definitely adding some decimals in here. I'm feeling a little bit cautious. Keep my eye over there, trying to stay consistent as possible.
5.8 is an interesting number for me.
5.8, I'm going to go
You might as well have just said 6.
No, because I'm not at 6. I'm not at a 6. I know what a 6 feels like.
Flirting with 6.
Yeah, I'm flirting.
I'm at a 0. I don't feel. I don't feel any panic with this team. This team's gonna make the playoffs.
Can't wait till we get the ball.
They have one of the easiest schedules in the NFL. T. Higgins is gonna come back. This offensive line actually has been pretty. It's been better than I expected. I mean, last year was one of the worst in the league.
For sure.
And this year they're below average, which is a big improvement from where they were last year. But yeah, I think Jamar Chase is gonna play his way into shape. I disagree with your statement about the Bengals defense being bad. I think the Seahawks defense is good, and the Patriots just put up 20 points on them. I think the Patriots are just not getting enough credit, but the Bengals defense against KC, I mean, they showed us that what they could do. Trey Hendrickson could take over a game. He had back-to-back weeks where he makes opposing teams bench their left tackle. That's how good he's been. And I think this secondary is really good. I think Cam Taylor-Britt's going to have a breakout year this year. He's going to be one of the better corners in football. And I like the Mike Gesicki move. I mean, now they have a tight end they can actually throw to who's more of a receiver, and he's been contributing big time in these first 2 weeks. So when you get Chase, T. Higgins acclimated, you have Gesicki, one of Yoshi Voss or Jermaine Burton step up for a big-time play here or there, I'm fine. The Bengals have been here before. They started out 0-2 in 2022, and they went to the AFC Championship game. There's a history with this team, and that's why I'm not panicking on them, not one bit.
I'm not worried either. I'm at about a 2 for them. Next 3 games, you mentioned Washington. You get Carolina after that, should be 2-2. Then it's Baltimore. That's going to be a tough game, but then you get the Giants. So this is a team that very easily could be 3-3. After those games all settle. The only issue I have, and it's funny with the Bengals because I think there's obvious holes on this team, right? I think the run defense is definitely questionable. You have Jamar Chase, as you mentioned, trying to play into shape. You have T. Higgins coming back from a soft tissue injury. Those sometimes can linger, not sometimes, a lot of times linger, but they're also the team that you probably trust the most going up against Kansas City in the playoffs. A couple of years ago, they beat Buffalo in Buffalo against the Ravens. That's a toss-up any given time. So when you compare them to these other teams in the AFC they're going to face in the playoffs, I think every time Joe Burrow steps up to the plate. So I think they'll get right these next couple of weeks with some easy opponents.
And Now, Dels, you can stay on the topic with the Baltimore Ravens. What's your panic level for them?
I'm the same. I'm at a 2. This was a bad loss against the Raiders. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. We gave the Patriots, we gave the Bengals hell for losing to the Patriots. And week 1, there's no excuse for the Ravens to lose to the Raiders on 10 days rest after starting 0-1, losing to the Kansas City Chiefs in the fashion that they did. It was a weird game, right? It was a really weird game. Credit to the Raiders in that fourth quarter because this was an offense that was really stagnant. I mean, this was like a 6-3 game late in the third quarter. Gardner Minshew in that fourth quarter, just Minshew fucking magic, man. They were able to get Devontae Adams going. Brock Bowers had himself a game, 9 receptions, almost 100 yards. But the Ravens have just shown over these last few years, if Lamar Jackson's healthy, they're going to get into the playoffs. They're going to compete for the division. I'm looking at the Steelers who are 2-0. I'm looking at the Ravens who are 0-2. I trust the Ravens infinitely more than the Steelers the rest of the way. And once we get to the playoffs, let's see if the Steelers even make the damn playoffs, John.
Oh,
They do make it. You can't
They
really
will.
say that.
I mean, with that deficit, Dels, you're not a long way to go because they got the Steelers twice. And they're not going to win both
They
those
do.
games.
Steelers play.
They're not going to win both those games.
I would say I'm at a 5, understanding that this offensive line is boo-boo. It's not good. And I have my worries about these weapons, understanding that Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, Zay Flowers, they're very good options. But are we going to see them utilized to their maximum potential? Mark Andrews has really not been relevant these first 2 games. He was definitely more prevalent in this game 2, but not really used in game 1 at all. Isaiah Likely was all world in game 1, pretty irrelevant in game 2. Zay Flowers was okay game 1. Pretty solid versus the Raiders for sure. Derrick Henry had himself a pretty solid ball game, but this offensive line is not that great. And if you can let in less than 4 minutes the Raiders go and score 10 points, this is where I start to have my concerns because the defense was supposed to be one of the more for sure parts of the unit. And honestly, so far, statistically, it has been still really good, but losing to the Raiders is unacceptable. So that's where I would say I'm at a 5. I still think that, yes, this is a playoff team, but when we talk about the Ravens, we're talking big picture, and that's why I would have my panic meter a little bit higher than normal.
I think the Ravens are a 5 for me as well. And they're a 5 because, and I know that face you're giving me, but you get the Bengals at 0. There's a difference with both teams. When the Ravens lost all the talent they lost in the offseason, we kind of just shrugged it off and we said, hey, listen, they'll be fine. They got Lamar Jackson. They got some superstars still. The offensive line is the biggest concern with them.
Easy.
Right now, they rotate right tackle with Rosengarten and Macari, and that happens throughout the game. They rotate the right tackles. Their left guard, Voorhees, has been absolutely abysmal, and their right guard, Falele, has also been absolutely abysmal. They have 3 positions on their offensive line that are turnstiles. That is cause for concern. The play calling with Todd Monken, Derrick Henry has not been able to get integrated in this offense in a way that you want him to be. In the first half, he played well against the Raiders. In the second half, he didn't really get the ball like that at all. And you start questioning the play call with John Harbaugh. He is a special teams coach. That's what got him a head coaching job. Your expertise has to be in game management. It's not. He has one of the worst challenge records in the NFL. He is a terrible clock manager. I think that's also a concern. This is the first time since 2020 that a Lamar Jackson Ravens team has started 0-2. The first time since an MVP has started 0-2 since 2004. These are also things that I'm a little bit concerned about. But then
Payton or McNair?
It might have been, was it Rich Gannon? I don't know. It was one of those.
Gannon won in 2002. That's why I'm wondering.
It might have been McNair because I know that he did win. Did he win MVP
They
once?
co-MVP.
Okay. All I know is that Lamar Jackson is the first MVP to start off 0-2 since 2004. Their red zone offense conversion rate last year was 62%. Through 2 games this year, they're 3 for 7. They haven't been as good in the red zone as an offense. Their defense allowed a touchdown on 41% of red zone trips last year. This year, it's at 50%. That's a 10% increase. And last year, they were the best team in terms of turnover differential in the NFL at plus 12. This year, it's been even, and that tends to regress from year to year. This is the biggest concern with them, though. That defense is not elite. Right now, they lead the league. They're number 1 in plays given up that are 20-plus yards down the field at 10. And you might be saying, well, they faced KC week 1. That's why. They gave up 5 against KC. They gave up 5 against the Raiders as well. A Gardner Minshew-led team you gave up 5 plays of 20-plus yards. This secondary looks worse. Opposing quarterbacks are 15 for 15 for 112 yards and a touchdown using play action against the Ravens. This defense cannot guard the play action. Their defense last year allowed 26 points or more twice. This year, they're already at 2, with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Raiders scoring that many points or more against them. Lamar Jackson is 1 for 9 for 39 yards on attempts, traveling 20-plus air yards down the field. And since 2023, Justin Tucker is 1 for 7 on kicks that are 50-plus yards, and he has 4 misses in a row. We see right now a Ravens team that's offensive line is one of the worst in the league. We see a defense that is giving up explosive play after explosive play every single week. It's just been 2 weeks, granted. We also see a offense that I think they have some good weapons. They don't have any elite level weapons. They struggle to separate against great defenses and really good physical corners. And then they have a kicker who once was very reliable, who's not as reliable anymore, and a coach who's on the downhill, not the up and up. This Ravens team, they're 0-2. You mentioned there's only 10% of teams
12
have 12% of teams
since
or 12 total teams.
no. Okay, so it was since 2012. Only 2 have done it, but before that it was 12%.
I know it's a 10% chance to make the playoffs after you start off
Percentages
0-2.
are really fucking low.
When you look at ESPN and their playoff predictor percentage, the Bengals right now are number 1 at 44%. The Ravens are still number 2 at 41%. So they still have a halfway chance of making the playoffs pretty much. But between them and the Bengals, the Ravens concern me the most because they lost the most. They lost a coordinator. They lost offensive linemen. They lost key defensive players, and all that matters.
Go ahead, John. I was just going to add one thing.
Very good. You go.
The Bengals, I think you can make an argument about, some of the issues they have, but we mentioned their schedule. The Ravens are the opposite. They got Dallas coming up. They got Buffalo coming up. They got Cincy. They're in Dallas. They're in Cincy. They're home for that in-between game, whoever I just said.
Buffalo.
So, Buffalo. These next 3 games, I mean, if they keep playing the way they've been playing, like 0-5 is not the realm of possibility. On the other hand, if you're able to patch some things together, and I think the offensive line it's going to be hard to patch that together because I think that's just a talent problem they have right now. Defensively, of course, you change defensive coordinators, but you still have some high-level talent there. So I think there's a bit more optimism there, and it's the Raiders, I get it, but the first 3 quarters, they were playing great defense, and that fourth quarter shit really just fell apart. But what scares me the most is just these next 3 games. You're going up against high-level teams who are expected to be in Super Bowl contention. You need this game against the Raiders to be 1-1, and maybe you can survive. You could go 1-2, and it's like 2-4. All right, not the end of the world. Now you're sitting here at 0-2, and you at a minimum have to win 2 or 3.
Yeah, I'm keeping consistent. I'm at a 5. I'm at a 5.
So Bengals are at 5.8.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have more concern than the Bengals. I'm sorry.
By 0.8. You're going to be on him for that?
You think the Ravens
They
make the
should be the
playoffs?
same if he say the energy is consistent.
All right.
Ravens make the playoffs still?
I mean, if the energy was consistent, you shouldn't have a fucking 5-point spot between the Ravens and the Bengals.
You the one that said you the one that made that statement. I didn't make that statement.
0 to 5.
I was consistent.
There's
I
more
was 2 for
concerns
both.
with the
What did you
Ravens.
say you gave both of them a 2?
Both
I
a
didn't
2. I
hear
think
what
both
you
the
said
teams
for
in
the Ravens.
playoffs.
The
Put one
Ravens
at
have a
0.
tougher schedule.
0?
They do.
The Ravens have a
Concerns?
way tougher schedule.
No, that's just being
It's
biased.
not, well, it's the first place schedule versus last place. That's
But
natural.
0 is nuts.
0 was a bit
because I'm
compared
not.
to
It's
5.
Joe Cool. That's his nickname. Joe Cool.
Yeah,
I'm cool
that
too.
was extreme
I'm
bias.
cool.
Me, I'm going to continue the consistent route I've been because I am an
5.8.
evolved man. And that's the route I'm going to take. I'm going to continue to be consistent. I'm at a 5 for
I
Baltimore.
love when you're
5.8 or 5?
I'm at a 5 for this
They're
one.
missing the playoffs.
I'm keeping.
That should be over. That should be
First of all,
overreaction.
7 of these teams, 6 of them are missing the playoffs. Let's just get that out the way.
this
Maybe
guy's
even
gonna be
7.
on top. Right
It's
here.
possible. Cool.
He's gonna be
I
on
don't
top.
really care if he does or he doesn't. You know what I'm saying? I'm not really like this.
It'd be
Cool.
crazy if we lost to Washington.
Yeah.
Put some money on it.
Spoiler. That's my lock of the week. They better not fucking lose.
I'm staying consistent. I'm keeping an eye on that offensive line. I do agree. I think that offensive line is going to be relatively
Facts.
one of the worst all season. Defensively, new defensive coordinator. Like you mentioned, the talent is still there, but that secondary, Marlon Humphrey looks a step slower. He looks like he's regressed slightly a bit. You still got Kyle Hamilton. You still got Roquan Smith. I do think this group that's talented will get it together. Keeping my eyes out. I'm monitoring the situation. I would love to see Derrick Henry get more involved in this offense. Really, really would love it. But just what happened against the Raiders, I mean, Max Crosby literally just said, fuck it. I'm really like that, and took the game over in the fourth quarter. And then Gardner Minshew, Devontae Adams, they did their thing. I think the Raiders loss was definitely a bit more concerning than the New England loss with the Cincinnati Bengals, just because of the way it happened. Fourth quarter, you're up 10 points.
Gag.
You end up losing. You end up choking that league, and then you choke that game, especially with Baltimore. The way they were playing, they kind of came out a little bit sluggish in the beginning of that game. The game wasn't perfect. And even then, the 10-point win is still not moving me. If you're a Baltimore Ravens team against a Raiders team, you should be blowing out these type of teams. So it definitely shows that the lack of talent from last year as opposed to this year is there. I think the defense is still really good, though. I think they'll be able to bounce back. But I'm at a 5 for it. I'm definitely cautious. I'm definitely keeping my eye open. But I'm not overly, panicking. So I'll go 5.
John, what you want to add?
I'm at a 6 for this, and there's a real
Shocker.
possibility people aren't ready for that the Ravens are missing the playoffs this year.
What are you, Joel's son?
Last time they started
He's smart. That's what he is.
Can you guys guess the last time Baltimore finished 0-2?
Start.
I guess
Did
the
you say
year-
2020?
A year they didn't make
It was
make the playoffs?
2021, right? Was it not?
They won and won that year. 2015 was the last time Baltimore finished 0-2. But in 2021, they missed the playoffs, ironically, that year. In their first game, they lost to the Raiders. Maybe a little bit of correlation here, but I don't know how you can't be worried about Baltimore. Their schedule this year is brutal to start. Like you highlighted, Dells, those 3 games. But then the last 6 games of the season, they've got the Chargers, the Steelers, the Eagles, and then you've got, of course, the Browns, the Texans. There's really no easy games outside of the Commanders. And then a little bit later on, they also get the Broncos. But to lose 3 of your starting offensive linemen is a huge loss, not just for the establishment, but of course the chemistry, and we're seeing that right now. And then the loss of Mike McDonald, something I think a lot of us didn't really look at enough, because we're seeing they're not getting the same out of their guys from last year, and that is probably top 3 defensive mind in football. So between that and the offensive line, what are you laughing at?
No, I see myself there. I just wanted to say hello.
It's funny. But between that and the offensive line not looking good, outside of Tyler Lindenbaum, there is a really good case the Ravens missed the playoffs this year.
No, he didn't even give his take with the Bengals.
John.
Hi.
Thing.
6 for the Ravens. Bengals get.
Bengals get a 4. And
Thank
here's
you,
why.
John. He is smart.
Number 1,
You're right.
schedule's a lot easier. Number 2, their defense looked a lot better this week. I have a lot more faith in their secondary development. It's a young group. And then, like Joel highlighted, getting back T. Higgins is going to be a really big addition.
Maybe it will.
Mike Gesicki is going to be a nice 3rd to 4th option in the passing game, but I don't think the Bengals should be void of any concern because the run game's still not there. And just all things considered, this is a brutal division. It's hard to see more than 2 teams making it. And one of those is going to be my Steelers.
I was going to say, the Steelers are ready 2-0. So, I mean, they already got
got
a
a
leg
lead.
up on these.
Justin Fields.
Is yet to throw a turnover.
Now, John,
yeah.
put yourself in split screen because we're going to speed through these panic meter ones.
All right.
Next team, the LA Rams. What's the panic meter on them?
It's a 10. It's an easy
55.
10. It's an easy 10. This is a team that offensive linemen are down, top receivers are down. This defense sucks. They're not making the playoffs.
This was the only team I had a legitimate flat out 10 for.
Now,
Oh, yeah?
Only team I had a flat
I have
10.
a question for you because this is important for our conversation that we've had in the car. Matthew Stafford,
Yes,
he won the Super Bowl.
he did.
The year after, they lost everybody.
Yep.
He got hurt. He did not play. I asked you. You made a list. I remember you made a tier list, and I asked you, why is Matt so low? You told me to my face. You was like, I just got to see it again. That's all it was. Got to see it. Banged up.
And
Oh,
last year,
this
he
was last year.
Yeah, you
going
don't know
into
when the
last
Rams.
year.
Yeah. Then he goes out and he reminded you.
He
I'm
sex
still
on a TV
one of them
screen.
dudes. So I'm gonna ask you again. Obviously, we think they're gonna be dog shit.
Yeah.
Their team is hurt, banged up. It's nothing Stafford can do. I'm sorry, bro. It's just life. Next year they retool. Are you gonna come in and say you don't think Stafford still has it?
No,
Or-
Stafford's that dude.
Okay.
I was just too low on him off
Okay,
rip. He
okay.
should have never been. I don't remember what tier he was, but he was too low.
You had him extremely low.
Yeah.
I will say the Rams aren't my only 10, but they are a 10. Look at how many injuries they have. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua.
Tre'Davious
Their
White is
offensive
done.
line is hurt. Darius Williams, their corner is hurt. Their secondary sucks. Tre'Davious White, it was clear that he's not the same player.
I feel
but
bad for him.
There's nobody that should have realistically expected for him to be the same player.